Welcome to today's deep dive. We are so glad you're joining us. I mean, think about this. If you walk into a grocery store and take a free sample of cheese on a toothpick, you really don't expect your credit card to just be secretly billed $3,000 a year for the privilege.
No, of course not. I mean, you'd call the police.
Right. But when you download a so-called free slime simulator from the supposedly, heavily guarded iOS or Google Play Store, that is actually exactly what is happening to millions of users. We all walk around trusting this walled garden concept, but today's stack of sources shows it's fundamentally compromised.
Yeah, we have a massive stack of source material to get through today. We're pulling from cybersecurity reports from Sophos and Kaspersky, financial crime alerts from FinCEN, and some really detailed legal briefings from Colson PC and Mishcon de Reya.
And we also have some great investigative pieces from Fast Company and Apple Insider. Our mission today is to unpack the exact technical mechanics of how these highly organized scams bypass security, how they exploit human psychology, and, importantly, what legal leverage you actually have to fight back against this giant accountability void.
Because honestly, it is a critical time to look at this. The sophistication of these exploits has completely outpaced the static defenses that these tech giants are relying on. We're looking at a masterclass in exploiting both code and human behavior.
So let's start with the most wildly profitable grift hiding in plain sight. We're talking about fleeceware. And this isn't even sophisticated dark web hacking yet.
No, not at all. It's basic utility apps, palm readers, camera filters, flashlight apps, and yeah, those literal slime simulators you mentioned.
Exactly. And they aggressively target kids and non-technical users through these viral TikTok and Instagram ads. And, I mean, how does anyone fall for this? And how do they even find these apps in the first place?
Well, what's fascinating here is that they play this brilliant but highly unethical game of compliance. They skirt the absolute razor's edge of the platform's terms of service.
Because technically the app itself isn't malware.
Right, exactly. There's no malicious payload corrupting your file system. The payload is the billing model. It just exploits human forgetfulness.
The numbers from the Sophos report are just staggering. So an app offers a simple 3-day free trial, which sounds standard. But the second that trial ends, it automatically converts to a recurring subscription charging up to $66 a week.
Yeah, $66 a week for a basic camera filter.
Right. And there was one specific app highlighted called ChatGPT, spelled with a B, obviously designed to intercept typos from the whole ChatGPT craze.
That is so sneaky.
It is. Charged $6 a week, which is over $300 a year. The developers netted $10,000 in a single month just off typos. Another app called Genie was pulling in $1 million a month.
Wow. And they are ruthlessly exploiting user friction. If you download a slime simulator on a Tuesday, poke at it for 3 minutes, and then delete it off your home screen, you consider the interaction over.
You think it's gone and dealt with?
Exactly. But deleting the app from your local storage does absolutely nothing to sever the API connection between the developer and the platform's billing system.
Because the subscription is anchored to your Apple ID or your Google Play profile, not the actual local app directory on your phone.
Right. So they bank entirely on the fact that you won't remember to dig through 4 layers of account settings to officially revoke that subscription.
It's all about misleading marketing, too. The sources highlight a fascinating ruling by the UK's Advertising Standards Authority against a mobile game called Evony, The King's Return.
Oh yeah, you've almost certainly seen those ads. They show this fast-paced, physics-based puzzle where you're pulling pins to drop lava on a goblin or shoot numbered barrels.
I see those constantly on my feed.
But when you actually download it, there are no physics puzzles. You are suddenly staring at a grid, managing resource queues for a medieval city builder. It's a complete bait and switch to game the user acquisition.
The ASA actually ruled the ads fundamentally misleading because they didn't reflect the core playing experience. The developer tried to argue the puzzles were buried deep in the minigames, but the ASA didn't buy it.
Right, because for fleeceware, this is the entire acquisition strategy. Show a viral, fabricated video to force the download, initiate the biometric prompt for the free trial, and let human forgetfulness do the rest. Once FaceID authenticates that trial, the track is set.
But that brings us to the obvious technical bottleneck here. If the billing APIs are so tightly controlled by Apple and Google, how are these incredibly deceptive apps getting approved by the bouncers at the door?
While the rigorous checks are largely security theater, During the Epic Games lawsuit against Apple, internal metrics revealed that App Store reviewers are expected to process between 50 to 100 apps a day.
Which means they're spending maybe 60 to 90 seconds auditing an individual app.
Exactly. You cannot possibly conduct a comprehensive static and dynamic analysis of a complex software package in under 2 minutes.
You just can't do it.
The reviewers are basically checking for crash loops and obvious UI policy violations. They are completely unequipped to catch sophisticated evasion.
Which perfectly explains the absolute nightmare Costa Eleftheria went through. The Fast Company and Apple Insider sources detail his whole lawsuit against Apple.
Yeah, he developed FlickType, which was a highly regarded keyboard app for the Apple Watch.
Right, and scammers essentially ripped his UI, cloned the app, and flooded the store with broken versions that did nothing but trap users in exorbitant weekly subscriptions.
And they completely manipulated the store's algorithm to bury Costa's legitimate app in the search results.
Exactly. They deployed server-farmed accounts to flood their broken clones with tens of thousands of fake 5-star reviews. And simultaneously, they hit the real FlickType with a coordinated wave of fake 1-star reviews.
He lost massive amounts of revenue.
He really did. So, if human moderation is failing that spectacularly on something as obvious as fake reviews, the actual technical evasion tactics must gliding right through.
They are. It's basically digital espionage at this point. Scammers utilize dynamic code loading. The app binary submitted to the store is a hollow shell that presents a clean, simple interface to the reviewer.
So it looks totally benign to the person testing it.
Right. But the moment the app is approved and goes live on the public server, it reaches out to an external command and control server and downloads the actual malicious payload into the app's cache.
So the app basically mutates after it crosses the border. The sources also mentioned decoy apps. The BC Society of Transition Houses flagged this as a major issue, particularly with stalkerware.
Yes, the reviewer sees a standard calculator app, they test it, it does basic trigonometry, so they approve it.
But if the user types a specific string into the keypad like 36 by 29, it bypasses the calculator UI and unlocks a hidden encrypted partition used to hide files or monitor device activity.
The evasion gets even more sophisticated with malware, like the Joker virus on Android. Scammers actually started writing their malicious apps using Flutter, which is Google's own open-source development framework.
Wait, they are writing the malware in the platform's own native framework.
Exactly. Because Flutter is a highly trusted, legitimate toolset, the automated security scanners essentially whitelist the underlying architecture.
Wow.
The static analysis tools just see standard compiled Flutter libraries. The malicious logic is obfuscated within a trusted environment, completely bypassing the abstract syntax tree checks.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. We have to talk about WAP fraud, or toll fraud, which is arguably the most insidious technical exploit we've covered today.
Yeah, WP fraud is devastating because it bypasses the App Store's payment ecosystem entirely and goes straight after your cellular provider.
So let me make sure I have the mechanics of this right. The malware loads a completely transparent, invisible overlay on top of a legitimate UI element like the X to close an advertisement.
That's exactly right.
When you tap the screen, you think you're closing an ad, but you're actually interacting with the transparent layer, which triggers an HTTP request over the cellular network to authorize a recurring subscription directly to your AT&T or Verizon bill.
That is the exact mechanism. It leverages the wireless application protocol billing agreements that carriers already have in place.
But how does it bypass the two-factor authentication? If my carrier adds a $20 monthly charge, they always send an SMS text to confirm it.
Well, the malware anticipates that. It either uses notification listener services to instantly intercept and dismiss the incoming SMS before it ever hits your lock screen.
Oh, that is terrifying.
Or it uses silent network authentication to verify the device directly with the cell tower. You have absolutely no idea you are bleeding money until you scrutinize your itemized cell phone bill at the end of the month.
So if these automated scanners and human reviewers are failing to catch a simple transparent overlay, they stand absolutely no chance against organized crime syndicates exploiting emotional hijacking.
We are definitely moving from automated petty theft to devastating social engineering here. Both FinCEN and the FBI have issued massive alerts on this pig butchering scam.
It is a digital long con designed to completely dismantle a victim's financial life. The sources from Unchained highlight the story of a 52-year-old man named Sai who lost over $1 million.
And the scammers don't just send a phishing link, they spend months cultivating a relationship.
Right, it often starts on a dating app or even just a random wrong number text on WhatsApp. They exchanged over 271,000 words with Psy. They build intense emotional rapport.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, they are basically fattening the pig. They become a trusted confidant. And once that psychological dependency is established, they casually introduce a highly lucrative crypto investment opportunity.
But the genius and the tragedy of the scam is that the criminals don't ask the victim to download some sketchy third-party software. They guide the victim to download an app directly from the official Apple App Store or Google Play.
Because the victim has been conditioned for a decade to trust the walled garden, if Apple approved it, it must be a legitimate brokerage, right?
Exactly. And that's where the location camouflage comes in. The sources from the record analyzed an app called Ace Pro. When the developer submitted it to the App Store, it looked and functioned exactly like a generic, boring QR code scanner.
Which breezes right through that 60-second human review.
Precisely. But the app contains geofencing logic. It pings the device's IP address. If the IP resolves to Cupertino, California, where Apple's reviewers are, it renders the QR scanner UI.
But when a targeted victim in London or New York opens the exact same app, the geofencing logic triggers.
Yeah, the app fetches data from an external server, and the entire interface transforms into a sleek, highly professional-looking cryptocurrency trading platform.
It's essentially a digital casino heist. The UI shows these beautiful, entirely fabricated candlestick charts depicting massive returns.
The victim deposits real Bitcoin or USDT, the app displays fake profits, and the victim is manipulated into liquidating their 401k to chase the phantom gains.
And this psychological manipulation is merging heavily with Web3 architecture through play-to-earn, or P2E gaming. FinCEN's intelligence briefs detail how scammers invite victims to play innocent-looking mobile games, like managing a digital farm or growing animated crops.
Which sounds completely harmless.
Until the game prompts you to connect your Web3 cryptocurrency wallet to claim your in-game rewards. When you click Connect Wallet, you aren't just logging in.
You're interacting with an ERC-20 smart contract.
Right, and you are signing a transaction that executes an unlimited approval function.
So you aren't sending them money right then, but you are effectively signing a blank digital check that grants the smart contract the cryptographic authority to withdraw tokens from your wallet on your behalf.
Exactly. In the future, without ever asking for permission again, the victim plays the game thinking their funds are safe, but the moment the scammer realizes the victim is tapped out and won't deposit any more funds, they trigger the smart contract and instantaneously drain everything out of the wallet.
And the sheer scale of this infrastructure is terrifying. Our sources from H3M Analytics point out that this exact mobile gaming ecosystem is being weaponized for global money laundering.
Transnational criminal organizations are laundering $4.5 million a day through online games.
They take stolen credit card data, buy massive amounts of in-game currencies like FIFA coins or Robux, and then flip those digital assets on third-party gray markets for clean, untraceable cryptocurrency.
Which really forces us to look at the accountability void. With millions being stolen and the global financial system being actively exploited, why is the corporate response from these tech platforms so incredibly hostile to the consumer?
The disconnect is infuriating. The sources are filled with users on Apple support forums practically begging for intervention. A user realizes they've been hit by a fleeceware subscription, they go through the official channels to request a refund, and they are instantaneously denied by an automated bot.
There is zero human investigation. If they want to appeal, they have to navigate a bureaucratic labyrinth just to find the email address for Apple's data protection officer.
Which is basically a black hole. It reminds me of the seemingly unrelated story from the sources about Fortune Brands CEO Nicholas Fink. He issued a sweeping mandate requiring hundreds of corporate employees to sell their homes and relocate across the country to Chicago or face termination.
Right, a massive life-altering mandate.
But right in the middle of it, Fink just quietly resigns for a better job at the company that makes Corona beer. He leaves utter chaos, the succession plan crumbles, and he faces zero personal consequences for the disruption he caused.
This raises an important question about how leadership insulates itself from the fallout of its own policies.
Exactly. Tech executives operate on the exact same paradigm. They stand on stage at developer conferences and issue these grand mandates that their app store is perfectly safe. But when the reality gets messy and users are actively harmed, the leadership is totally disconnected.
They take their 30% cut and leave the users to fight against the automated refund denial bots. So the critical question becomes, how do you bypass the platform's insulation?
Let's get into the legal mechanics from the briefings, because the standard customer service route is clearly a dead end. What are regulators doing?
Well, because the FTC's federal click-to-cancel rule has been bogged down by corporate lobbying, the real leverage is at the state level. The law firm Colson PC highlights that states like California and New York are aggressively enforcing strict auto-renewal laws.
So they are empowering class action lawsuits against developers who use dark patterns, like obscuring the cancellation button or requiring users to call a defunct phone number to cancel. But what about a developer like Costa Eleftherio, who is watching his intellectual property get cloned?
For developers, standard App Store reporting tools are useless. The weapon of choice is utilizing 17 U.S.C. Section 512(c)(3) to file a formal DMCA takedown notice.
Which bypasses the customer service bots and goes straight to the platform's designated legal agent.
Exactly. Under the DMCA safe harbor provisions, the platform is shielded from liability only if they act expeditiously to remove it. But the critical component is the perjury statement. The developer must swear under penalty of perjury that they are the authorized copyright owner.
Because you're attaching immense legal weight and personal liability to the claim, it forces the platform's legal department to act.
Correct. But for the everyday user who just discovered a $600 charge for a slime simulator, the DMCA doesn't help. The most actionable advice from the financial sources is to completely bypass the App Store and leverage the banking system's regulatory framework.
The credit card chargeback. But the sources are very specific about how you do this, right? You don't just call the 1-800 number on the back of your card.
No, you have to initiate a formal billing error dispute under the Fair Credit Billing Act, or Regulation Z. You generally have 60 to 120 days to do this. You construct a physical dispute dossier.
With screenshots of the deceptive app, the hidden subscription terms, and the platform's refusal to issue the refund.
And then you send that physical dossier to your credit card issuer via certified mail with a return receipt. Certified mail is the silver bullet here. It shifts the burden of proof.
The bank will temporarily credit your account and demand that the App Store prove the charge was explicitly authorized. Faced with a formal bank dispute over a known fleeceware app, the tech giants will almost always concede rather than fight the bank's fraud department.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? You need to take immediate, proactive control of your device. First, audit your subscription settings today. Go directly into your Apple ID or Google Play profile and check the active subscriptions list. Do not rely on what's installed on your home screen.
And set up biometric locks to prevent kids from downloading fleeceware, and stay hyper-vigilant about free trials for basic apps.
You have to fundamentally change your threat model. You are not browsing a pristine garden. You are walking through a highly contested digital bazaar.
And I want to leave you with a final chilling thought to ponder. If scammers are already this successful at slipping fake apps past human reviewers who only have 60 seconds, what happens when fully autonomous agentic AI enters the picture?
Oh, wow. A system that acts independently to achieve a goal.
Precisely. Imagine an AI agent whose sole directive is to generate illicit revenue. It can dynamically write, compile, and submit the code for thousands of unique, localized scam apps every single day.
It would automatically obfuscate the malicious payload to bypass that Flutter static analysis and instantly generate tens of thousands of flawless fake reviews.
It would completely overwhelm the moderation queue. Without a radical reinvention of how tech giants verify software, the entire concept of a curated app store might completely collapse under the sheer velocity of AI-generated synthetic fraud.
That is a terrifying but absolutely vital reality check. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this equips you with the mechanical understanding and the legal tools you need to protect your digital life. Check those subscription APIs. Demand proof before you connect a wallet. And remember, just because the App Store approved it doesn't mean it's safe. Stay curious and stay secure.